plenty more.
Okay, here we are, back on the porch.
Living the American dream.
Beautiful
One
day
day at a
today.
time. It is. It's
The heat wave is gone.
apparently I'm still being beckoned. Yes, the heat has been broken. There is no rain. The chairs have been sat in. The electronics have been plugged in. We were just talking about technology and how far we've come in our lifetime.
And how the further we come, the harder it seems to get.
We have more options, that's for sure. I do remember working with young James. I was much older, of course. Young James and young Richard at Morton West High School on the IBM card reader. Initially, you had to have the IBM cards with your old pencil darkened
That was
in.
a Hewlett. That was a Hewlett
Yes.
Packard.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And then went to the trash 80s, TRS-80s from
Yes.
Radio Shack. And Rich would write out all these character strings because he had this cheerleader program.
Yes.
And somehow I had this, and again, this is all done, I want to say we were juniors when I was doing this because
Yeah.
I went from being a carpenter to being on this college track. And Rich would just give me these sheets with all these character strings typed out, like to make this cheerleader do her thing. And I literally would sit in this class. I had a class in data processing, the entire hour typing it in. The class is going on, and I'm just working there. And the teacher comes over and goes, "What are you doing?" And I just said, and I didn't know what I was doing really. I just said what Rich told me. "You're typing in character strings to make this program work." He goes, "You're doing programming?" "Yes, sir, I am." "Well, just keep doing that. There's nothing in this class that we could teach you." And I got an A. I literally had my back turned to the class, just typing stuff in. And you know what? I'm still typing stuff in. All these years later, basic is basic. I work in Visual Basic for applications. It's still basic. Four next loops, all that. That's all I do all day. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So everything
Well,
I
we
learned when I was 16.
We also got the that Apple II in the math Apple lab.
I was not in the math lab. I never got
to.
to see something like that.
We had to get to school extra early or stay late to use that one because the teachers got to use that one during the day.
Wow, you guys are cutting edge.
It was pretty amazing. But yeah, I had shoe boxes full of those cards for programming.
And you had to have them in numerical order. And you would wait till the dorks would be in the hallway, like counting their cards and sorting them. And they'd give them a push. And all you'd see is these IBM cards raining down the stairwell. My program.
That's horrible, Mark. Why would you do that?
I would not do that. I've seen it done. When I counted my cards and put them in order, I was like hiding in a locker. So I did not want to do that. These guys would do it between classes. And that's like,
Well, I
inviting
remember
danger.
we had the one of the first math contests at our school we hosted, and I had written a Othello program. Remember Othello with the black and white chips?
yes.
So I wrote one for the TRS-80, and it had the unusual feature. And I did not put this in. I think I
Yeah.
developed the first artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It would cheat if it was losing. It would take an extra turn.
Nice.
And people are going, "What the heck? Why is it taking 2 turns in a row?" I go, "Were you winning?" "Yes." Well, there you go. It's a very
Advantage goes to the house, apparently.
and these are computers that had 4K of RAM.
Yeah, and kids, for all you young whippersnappers out there, how did you get the 4K, Jim? 90-minute cassette tape.
Yes, that's what a storage medium.
4K on 90 minutes
No.
of tape.
You could put more than 4K on.
I think the number was 4.
No, because we had 10-minute tapes that would be able to dump the whole thing to. You could put multiple programs on a 90-minute tape. You have to use the tape counter to tell where your program was.
Oh, see, I just used one tape for the whole thing. Yeah, I never would.
It would
think to store
not take
more.
90 minutes to save the
Okay.
program.
Well, I stand corrected then.
It would take minutes, though.
Revenge of
it
the
would
Nerds.
take a minute, maybe.
Yeah, and no, better yet, when you backed it up on that tape, and then the tape would break. Good times were had by all. Goodbye program, goodbye everything, and you're standing there with all this loose tape. So that's why you would use the metal cassette tapes. Like there was metal tape instead of plastic
they had
tape.
special computer tapes that were leaderless because you couldn't. If you started to do it on a leader, the tape recorder didn't know it had a leader on it.
Right.
So you had to get the leaderless.
So
tapes.
all you kids out there with your little phones and tablets and pens that store 1 gig. We're talking about K here, people. Not K is like 1,000, 1,028 or whatever it is. Yeah, 4 programs are written in 4K, and that was huge. That was a huge amount of data.
Well, and the Apple II, that had 16K, but not all of it was available. You had maybe like 8K that was available.
And this is all we had as we graduated in 1982. That's what we had to go forward with. That's right. And you would go to the North Riverside Mall and hang out at the Radio Shack thing. And I remember they had this Elsa artificial intelligence program. And they wanted to say it was like $100. Like in the 80s, you could get a car for $200. This software thing was $100. And you're like, no way, man. No way. An album was like $8. You go to a concert or buy the album, they were both $8. So
can you imagine going to a concert for $8 now?
Yeah.
You can't even pay-per-view a concert for it.
No, and so then, I got to college. Computers still didn't exist. I think I had one. I would just call it an intro to desktop computing. 1 hour of. They had a whole lab with computers. I got to sit in front of a personal computer for an hour by my senior year of college in 1986. 1 hour. They had, the mainframes or whatever, the COBOL processors or whatever, in 1 hour. And I get to my first job, and of course my boss goes, "You know a lot about the computers, right?" "Oh, yeah, come on. Who doesn't, old man?" And I had no idea. Because then, even in the 80s, a desktop computer, what, $3,000? So it was
not.
Well,
if you wanted the IBM PCs, which were just starting to come out.
Right, because there was no clone then. Yeah.
My first computer, I got this right before I was going to college, was a Commodore 64.
Yeah.
It had 64K of RAM, but 16K was the operating system.
And it was all on the keyboard. I remember that.
It was all on the one unit keyboard. You had a display. It was 25 lines by 40 characters. You had 7 colors. There wasn't 8 colors. There were 7 colors.
How do they do that? Well, there are 7 colors in a rainbow, but
Well, I don't know, but that's how they did. And for the graphics,
just letting you know,
you had graphics characters like on the TRS-80, but you could do curved lines instead of just the blocks. It was pretty amazing. I could get that thing to do a lot of stuff. And I actually was able to pay for part of my school by writing programs on the Commodore 64. There was computer magazines back then where you would buy the magazine, type in the program by hand. There was no download from the internet.
Yeah, look at the paper and type it in,
Yeah, and if you made a mistake, that was it.
So you had to find it, right? You had to go line by line. They actually
came up with a program, someone wrote a program that would have a checksum at the end of the line. So as you typed in the lines, it would give you a number, and if that number didn't match what was in the magazine, you had a typo. So you could find it
so at least
easily.
To help you,
So the big one, I wrote a solitaire game.
Wow.
And it was one where you could bet on the cards and how many cards you got back. Sold that to Compute's Gazette. They put it in a book of computer games.
Wow.
First royalty check I got, $1,000.
Look at you.
I was excited because I got paid like $300 for the program.
That's amazing.
It was, and I splurged all on a printer. I got a daisy wheel printer. Do you remember daisy wheel printers?
I do.
Louder than a typewriter.
Yes, they were. And then you'd be on green bar with the papers on both sides.
Yeah, you had to pin feed.
Hey, look, it's my roommate. He's going to work with Ruffles Potato Chips. He's got Breakfast at Champions.
That's what you drive around with that, or is that for your customers?
Yeah,
I just throw them off my motorcycle, dude.
I thought you were out doing the Uber thing. Huh? No, it's not raining. You're not doing Uber. Sorry.
No, he only goes out when he's incentivized. That's the truism of America, people. I only work when there's tons of money.
Probably everyone on the podcast is going to not hear what he's saying because he's not even close to the microphone.
That's okay. We'll just assume that it was something very wise. He's a very wise man. No, and then I remembered in 1989, 1990, I was working at this bank, and to that point, we'd only had amber monitors. I was as a financial analyst. And then they came out with the gray screen monitors that were easier on your eyes. And, man, it was revolutionary.
Gray or green?
Gray. So it was green and amber. Amber and green were the two colors that were available as a display color. And then they came out with gray. And it was like, oh, look at that.
See, now my Commodore 64 had a color monitor.
Yeah, but this was...
It didn't have a color monitor. If you hooked it up to a television...
Right.
Through a little antenna hookup. So that's what I first had, was like the TV hookup.
No, and I just remember amber, and then it was obviously going from 5 1/4 inch drives to 3.5 hard disk, and you're like, oh baby, look at this 2 point.
The hard case. It was still floppy inside.
Yeah, 2 meg, whatever. Yeah, because the floppy was 660 on a side, so they were single-sided, double-sided to 1.2. The hard ones went to 2.4, I think, or 2.3, 2.4, and you were just like, oh. And then right around this time, there was a zip drive.
Oh, yeah.
I had them, and I'm telling you guys, I had like 50 zip disks here to store all these images. I was starting to do image work, and I had 50 of those drives in a disk, and and each one was like $10, and oh my God, you could store, I want to say it was 10K or something on those. Yeah, it was 5, or was it 100K? Maybe it was 100K. It was like 50 times.
That's kilobytes, boys and girls, not gigabytes, not megabytes.
Not meg.
Kilobytes.
K, yeah. No, it was 10. I bet it was 10 meg. I bet those zip disks were, I think they were 100. Maybe they were 100 meg. Because it would have been 50. Yeah, it was 50 floppy disks was the count.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I remember those.
And here's the better part. Loading software. As a guy who loaded Windows, I don't know, several hundred times in his life, 24 diskettes.
Yes.
And, heaven help you on number 18, if there's a little bit of the hitch in the giddy up, you don't get to 19, and, the whole thing crashes. How do you get one diskette fixed? You literally could take it to a place, they'd take the case apart, and, I don't know what, free up the disk inside, whatever.
Clean it
was crazy.
Or something.
Yeah, and then we read try it now. Like, they don't know if it's going to work. Nobody has any idea if anything works.
Oh, I remember one of my floppies on my Commodore 64 went bad, and they had a Commodore 64 at the Math Apple Lab, and the guy had this program. It would look at the disk byte by byte, and it would look at the directory, and he said, here's the directory block that's bad.
Yeah.
This is what it should be. He could rewrite that one byte on the disk, and then the disk worked.
To remove it, yeah. No, I took a class in that. There was a software pattern. I'm trying to think of what it was. It was like Disk Doctor or something.
Yeah.
I had a 3-hour class, and it would, do the same thing. It would refrag and refrag, your...
defragment.
Right, your hard drive would get fragmented, and then you would defrag it, and the same thing. They would look for hot... pixels, I guess, are hot bytes that you couldn't write to anymore, and it would just put an X on that byte and move to the next one, so your data would not get hung up in this. And all sorts of stuff like compacting, uncompacting, and my God!
Do you remember when the CD-ROM first came out? I remember them saying they had writable CD-ROMs.
Yeah.
They said you will never fill this up. It's got enough memory on it to hold an entire encyclopedia.
Yeah.
You could store documents on here every hour, every day, and you'll never fill this thing up.
Yeah.
And they filled them up pretty quick.
So when those came out, I was dating the fair Dr. Alice, and I'd laid a whole bunch of wonderful gifts on her, like bicycles, whatever, all this stuff. And I guess she was not enormously huge on reciprocity on that, but whatever. She said, well, find yourself something nice. And I got a CD burner that ran on SCSI. I had to have a SCSI card, a CSI card, put into my desktop computer that was hand-built by Rich. Rich built me this, Jim's brother Rich built me a computer called the Mark 1 or Mark 4 or something. And we had to put the SCSI card in, special connector because it was high speed. And then you would connect, big honking, 65 pin, connector, and $600 for this writer, and it would burn a CD-ROM, and you would get the rewritable ones. And again, it was 720 meg on that. So again, you're talking about 100 meg was the zip drive.
Right.
This was 7 of those in one CD-ROM that you could probably buy. It was like $1. I think $3 for rewritable and like $1 for writable.
And do you know why? It's the CD-ROM is the size that it is?
I do not.
So the guy in Japan who invented the CD-ROM, he invented it to store music.
Okay.
So he wanted to be able to have it big enough to put his favorite symphony on the CD-ROM. So it had to have 80 minutes worth of music or whatever.
Yeah,
much music
it was like
had to have
79
that much music.
Minutes of music.
So that's why we have it that size.
Wow.
He could have gone a little bit higher, could have gone a little bit lower. But
good thing it wasn't into punk rock and said, I'll make the CD-ROM like 42 seconds. Wow, that's cool. No, and we had all that technology, and then as it goes, like we just had a technology drive here last weekend. Load up your trunk with all the crap that you never use anymore, and that's where I'm sure all the zip drives went, all the zip readers, that CD-ROM burner, all that went in there, because now they a CD-ROM is an attachment on a laptop. It's not even standard operating anymore. And they wouldn't even.
You know what it is, though?
CD-ROM.
My new computer's got a CD-ROM drive.
Oh, mine does not.
You're
Well,
looking
does
at
your
it right
desktop
down
don't? Like laptops don't have CD-ROMs.
No,
anymore.
laptops don't. That's too
And
much
then you
space.
just download the dongle to get your software. You don't need you used to get a program on a CD-ROM, and it would be like open the case.
Yeah, no, everything's downloaded over the
Yeah.
internet. If you don't have internet, you're screwed.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I guess you could buy some programs still on CD-ROM. They still sell them, I think, but why when you can just download it, whatever. Like Quicken now. I use Quicken, which I'm not very happy with.
Me too.
But you can't get the CDs anymore. You have to go to the website and you have a license, and they tell you what you can buy.
Yeah.
And then so after CD-ROMs, then we went, the hard drives. I mean, getting the first hard drives inside the computer was a game changer, because before you had to boot your computer off your floppy.
Yep. You
So
put a disc in the E drive.
and that would load your DOS operating system.
Right, that would get the whole game
And
going.
along with Windows came the hard drive, where the operating system was already installed in the computer. You turn it on, and it would load from the hard drive. And those first hard drives, like 10 megabytes.
Oh, yeah. And I actually worked with
Maybe
these
8?
into the 2000s. I worked at this hospital, Ingalls, down the south side, and we had this graveyard of dead computers. And we would have, because the hospitals wouldn't upgrade any software. So we had some kind of hemo something, blood, whatever, blood department, had something that ran off diskettes on a Windows 3 machine. We are building, in a time when there was like Windows 7, we're building Windows 3 desktops. And you need a Bigfoot hard drive. This Bigfoot, it literally looked like a Bigfoot. I mean, that's why they call it Bigfoot. And it bolted to the bottom of the thing. So I remember going into the graveyard, looking at a machine. Is this Windows? Yeah, it's Windows. You crack it open. Okay, you got to unscrew this hard drive, have to format it, and then stick it into the new machine. You take all day to build a Windows 3 machine because they can't run blood tests. And you had to have like a backup machine in case that one died, so they could actually do. Because to get new software would cost like $2,000, say, to fix that problem, and they don't have $2,000. So you're running something that's like 15
nowadays
years
the hospital's
old.
got tons of money.
Most should, yeah.
My next computer I stuck with a Commodore. I got an Amiga 500. I don't know if you remember these computers.
Yeah.
They were color too. They were, again, all-in-one keyboard things. But the hard drive was an extension on the side that you would slide in, and that was the hard drive. My first hard drive on Amiga, I think, was 500 megabytes.
Wow.
If I remember correctly.
I remember that. It was at the house in Elmhurst. Because I
And
remember
that
the
could
drive
be-
would snap out of that little connector, would come off, and your hard drive just went away. And
Yeah.
like, what the hell just happened
Yeah.
here?
And it would still connect to the old Commodore 64 tape drive
Yeah.
if you wanted to. But the Commodore, yes, the Commodore 64 came with a tape drive. It did come with a floppy drive you could attach. The back then, those floppy drives cost almost as much as a computer because they had a computer in them.
Yeah.
And you could put two of them. Commodore was one of the first ones. You could put two of those things together.
Do
Boy.
you think it was, in a certain way, I think, and maybe because the numbers were smaller and everything was more, it was cultish in that you were either a computer geek or you were not, and most were not. So when most people would go, computer, what's that? Oh, that's never going to come take my job. And now computers are everywhere, driving absolutely everything, and no one can service any of it. You throw it out. And I think back then, maybe it was a little stronger build. Like things, they would say, we're going to build this, it's going to last 5 years.
Oh.
And now you build something, it's like, I hope it makes it to Friday. It's Wednesday. I'm like, hope it makes it to Friday. Out the door it
I
goes.
have
And
my
have a nice day.
Commodore 64 set up in my basement. It still works.
Yeah.
The color monitor's there. It turns on. That thing is 30-some years old,
Yeah.
and that computer still works. I still have my Amiga 500. I'm going to get that out and check that out.
Yeah.
I still have my Windows 3 laptop. It was like a $500 laptop, which was really inexpensive back at that time. It did not have a built-in floppy drive. It came with an external floppy
Right.
drive, the 3.5 inch. It was a black and white display. It was like 8 or 9 inches.
Yeah.
And it had a little trackball instead of a mouse pad.
Wow.
And I wrote my first veterinary software on that thing.
Wow.
And I took that with me on one of my house calls. And when I came home, it had a docking station. I could slide it in, and then I got the color monitor, I got the mouse, I got the
When I was
full-size keyboard.
working, my first job out of college at this bank when they made me the financial analyst. I remember accountants coming in, Crow Chiswick, I think they were out on Oak they're still there, and the guy had a portable. The laptop didn't exist, so it was just a portable computer that had a handle. You could take it with you, and man, you're like, oh, you can move it. You know, it weighs less than 100 pounds, and you can actually lug this thing. And had this little like it was a square, and the front end kicked down, right. And you had like. What was that, a 4-inch screen?
No, it was bigger than that, but it seemed like really.
No,
tiny.
it was on the top of because it was the front end. It had a little keyboard, and then it had this little screen. Yeah, but it had to be 7 inches wide. This thing was small, and yeah. Look, I could see the numbers. Oh man, he could take it with him. So you didn't have to, how do you transport
the keyboard
stuff
was strapped onto the front. And the cover was the keyboard.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, and like that is so cool, and that was like so cool, and you're like, oh my god. And then, but I went, the best computer store I have, I rode my bicycle across America, and I was no longer a financial analyst. I don't know what I was. I was just a guy with a bicycle. And I get called, Robert Half, temp agency, says they have a job for me out in St. Charles as a Excel guy. And the guy says, well, yeah, they've got a program, they use Visual Basic for applications. Of course you know all about that, right? Of course I do. I don't even own a computer at this time. And I had a day. I went to Crocs and Brentano and bought a VBA Programmer's Guide, Dummies Guide, the yellow book, VBA Programming for Dummies.
Yeah.
And I went to Dan's house. And in an hour, I just went through the first lesson, like how to get into the code. And I go, well, I can show the boss that. And maybe he won't know any more than that. And he'll go, okay, you're all good. But I said, heaven help me if the guy, because they had a program, right, and they wanted me to fix it. And I said, if the creator of that program is there, they're going to know instantly I have no clue. And I get out to this job. The guy says, he's ultra-high management. He's like, okay, so you're going to be here in this corner. Tell you what, we're going to give you it's like a Wednesday. We'll give it to you at the end of the week to, get situated, and then we'll start our programming on Monday. Okay. So he let me alone with the program and my Visual Basic for Dummies guide in a corner, left me alone for 3 days, and by Friday night, I knew what I was doing. I took the thing apart, I broke it a bunch of times, but I knew I had a working version, so I just made a copy. And I'd break it, fix it, break it. What happens if I take that line in? What happens if I put that line in? All this, 3-day boot camp, and then I was what I am now.
This was the Visual Basic with the little forms, and you'd put the controls on the screen, or was
pretty much? Yeah, I mean that's a form, right? But now I'm just doing straight code. I still do form design, but this is just it's Visual Basic. So same thing, Fornex loops, everything we learned in high school.
Oh yeah,
just a little window dressing for Microsoft, because now you're controlling, like in Excel, you control cells, and if you're into Word, it's paragraphs, and if it's PowerPoint, it's slides, and if it's Access, it's fields and tables. So, and they all talk to each other. So you can go from Excel right to.
Oh gosh, yeah, I remember Basic was the first thing we learned, and that's when we were doing on those cards on the HP. Yeah. Of course, every computer had their own version of Basic, so you had to learn the different.
Because Basic was actually it was copyrighted, so you had to come up with your own little.
Then Microsoft came out with a thing called Quick Basic, which was run on all the IBM machines.
Right.
And that was kind of nice. But then the Visual Basic was the next step up, because they came out with the graphical user interface, the GUI interface.
Right. That was the Windows. That was the whole concept.
So they needed a way for people to create applications that look like that, and that's where that came from. And it's just. Here's our first train of the day.
Yep. And it's a quick one. Stay with us, folks. Don't leave. We're back.
Yeah. So nowadays, now I'm getting back into programming. I would say there was a 10-year period after Visual Basic 6 that I stopped using it. Now it's all Visual Studio. I'm using C#.
Yeah,
I'm just programming techniques that are just crazy.
Just like English people, I barely speak English, so I only speak Visual Basic for applications. I don't do anything else. I'm a one-trick pony, but I'm pretty good at the one trick. So
right, and there's people that they have these legacy systems that depend on Excel and VBA.
Right, because most of these offices I work in
nobody
are
knows how to
Excel
use this
only.
stuff.
No,
Yeah.
they're like, this client I have right now, I have a new client. Nobody really has any Excel experience. They're using Google Pages. So like, what's a button? What's a cell? And you're like, whoa, what a fertile feeding ground this is going to be. You know, can you change the color? Yes, I can. Oh, that's so nice. I like color. That's just cool. And you think about where we started and where we're at now. It's like I've gone out, then I've come back, and it's like now I'm teaching people. This is a cell. This is color. Let me color in my scan. My IBM card. Put it in the card reader. We're going all the way back.
Well, like you said, it was so expensive to upgrade back then.
Oh yeah.
And things worked. The software worked. Things did not.
Imagine having something like a car now that was built to last 50 years. Which is the original Fords. Those are, like the Model A, Model T, and all that. They were not built with obsolescence in mind.
4 year lifespan.
Right. And now these computers, there's no reason to build anything that's got more than a 2-year shelf life because everything keeps evolving.
Yeah.
But the problem is that with the evolution, nobody gets to know, here in neighborhoods, we grew up in Stickney. We knew all our neighbors. Nobody was leaving. Now, your neighbors are leaving every 6 months. So do you put forth the effort to know your neighbor? Because they're going to be leaving in 6 months. So you're constantly learning. The neighborhood is constantly changing. There's constantly upgrades to every system. And I don't know if that's necessarily better. It's just change. It's change. It's not change for the better. Just change. No one syncs roots, electronically or otherwise. Yeah.
So now we're running the podcast off I used to run off my laptop and I'm having issues.
Right.
So now I bring my desktop computer over because Mark does not live next door to me. It would be so much easier if you did.
Oh, well, Is that an offer, Jim? You want me to leave?
I spent an hour last night setting up the whole system, our 2 cameras, our microphones, my little stream deck, the sound system, everything's going into it. I got it all set. Everything's ready to go. All I got to do is plug everything in. It's going to work. I get here, I plug everything in.
You prayed, and the prayers were not answered.
It didn't work.
And you think about all the hours and years that we've spent with this technology, and when something like that happens, we're back to square one. Yeah. What could it possibly be? It's like there's no, because they are loosely consistent, there's no exact way you go, that happens, it's always this. That doesn't, you have to be flexible because it could be anything. And so the other week, my laptop, my trusted old laptop that I use forever, it's like 7 years old, I left it unplugged, so it ran all the way to 0. I plug it back in, it's a little crazy because your screen is black. You're like, what causes this? What causes this? Oh, yeah, the plug fell out. Okay, so I plug it in, it starts to boot up, and the whole screen goes black. And I'm like, no, because I got to log in, I got work, I got all my stuff is on there. Do you back it up? Oh, no, you don't back it up. I want to be a good user. Well, it turns out that there's something in the software that instead of it like just doing a quick blackout and coming up, it now takes like a minute of total blackness. And it's still running, but you can't hear the engine. Your hands are on the laptop. You don't hear it humming. And you swear it's turned off. And all of a sudden, boop, it just pops up and everything's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But I have no idea why it's causing that. I've been on it every day of my life. I have no idea what's going on. I'm totally clueless.
The computers used to make all those lovely noises so you know things are going to look clicks.
Yeah, the thing. I want 2 clicks and put a third one and then it'll come up. And
oh, gosh.
You have no idea.
Do you remember the modems?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then when you're on the modem getting online, nobody can call you because nobody had cell phones. And you would either be on the phone or you'd be on the internet.
And if you had call waiting, it would totally screw up your connection.
Yes, and call waiting, was extra money. So, of course, Bohemians, what? $5 a month? What? No, not going to pay it.
And the fastest you could get, boys and girls, 56 kilobits per second. Not bytes, kilobits per second.
Yes.
That was the fastest you could get.
You could almost see the ones and zeros in the air. It was
if you wanted to,
slow.
If you had a web page with a picture on it, you would see the lines of the picture come in line by line. Yeah. Because there's none of this placeholder.
I remember we had it here at the house. I want to say I bought the house in 99. This would have been like 2000, 2001. Dan, Mark Dreyer, and I hooked up a modem here 4 hours. And my line at the time was, how much firepower do we have in this room and we can't get the modem to turn on? Because I was like, I want to start posting stuff on eBay. I had to back then you had to upload the pictures to your own website. like a storage place on a website, and then you would send the link to
Oh my God.
eBay because they didn't have storage. Now they have storage and they wipe it out or whatever. But when eBay first got cranked up, you had to store it somewhere, either on your computer and never turn your computer off, and then send the link to that. But I would post it onto a website, so I had to have storage out on the cloud somewhere, and then link to it and build a
Wasn't
link.
called the cloud back then, no.
No, it was not a cloud. It was cloudy. It was a surface. It was almost on the ground. That's how unlofty it was. It was not cloud based. And yeah, so we had 12 years of college, sitting in a room trying to get a modem to connect to a computer. It was unbelievable. And now. And nobody would put up with that. If it doesn't connect automatically, you're like, take it back. It's
my
broken.
first modem for my Commodore 64.
Train coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, is this a freight one?
Sounds like, oh, no.
No, it's passenger. Well, I don't know. People might be hearing us okay, but because these microphones can probably block out some of that.
Well, that's why we just moved
it's
closer.
looking pretty bad on my monitor
There you
here.
go. Oh, we're good. All better now.
Yeah. So,
Engine's gonna-
300 bits per second.
Yeah.
And it had a 1200 bit per second mode that I could get it on. So there was a connection where you could do your. I was taking a programming class. You had to connect to the mainframe, and I could connect my Commodore 64 as a terminal. But on weekends, there's a limited number of dial-in connections.
Right.
If you disconnected, you might have to wait 6-8 hours to connect in. So they had this log program that you could run that would run the daily log and print it out. So if I had to go to lunch, I just run the log. It would keep me connected because if you didn't do anything for like 10 minutes, it would boot you off automatically. So it was just doing this automatically. And I come back from lunch and it'd be, that's back down to June now or whatever. And then I could sign back into my account and continue with my programming.
I just think the time, that's the other thing, because obviously with more speed, more storage, more everything, we can do more faster. But the hours that used to be committed to this kind of stuff, connecting, staying connected, getting to a place where you get the internet, how long does it take to download a page? And it was just all these things in our head. And then when it gets faster, you don't think about it at all. Like the first time you do something really, first time there was Wi-Fi, right? You never thought about a modem again. You never went, what? Modem? Oh, no, man, Wi-Fi. Woo! And you don't even think about, and the speeds are so 10x, 100x of what it used to be, and we were okay with the 56K. That's all you had.
I remember when my brother first connected my parents' computer up to the internet, and watching those web pages load, I go, this is going so slow, because it was probably a 14400 kilobits per second modem back then. I think it was through America Online, but that was an old
there you go.
And the web page, the text would come up, and then these pictures would take forever to leave. Any graphics on the page would slow it down. Yeah. And there was maybe 100 websites then. 4 all the big companies had them, but there wasn't that many commercial websites out there.
Well, if we're talking about that, I was working at Sanford Inc. They had a website. This is late 90s, and the story there was obviously nobody had web czars or whatever, webmasters then.
Webmaster.
Yeah, they would call it a webmaster. Nobody had one, and so literally there'd probably be 100 in Chicago. So if you wanted a website, you had to go and bow down to the great gods, right? And so Sanford had a website with colors, with links to, you want to work here, look at us, we make pens, whatever. And the story, the scuttlebutt on the back end, because I was in IT, I was brought in as a accountant, an account receivable clerk, and I worked myself into a software IT job. And they were charging us $10,000 to make any change on that website.
That's insane.
So they wanted to make one page look like textbook paper with the lines, yellow page with the lines. 10 large to make that change. They had to provide the graphic and $10,000. And I was like, I think the mob could do it for 8. The mob, the literally, the no-nose Joey, Tony Accardo over here in Oprah. Yeah, he'd do it for 8. 10 is outrageous. So they were doing all this. My coworker, who was a hardware guy, had a little problem with the bottle, would come in drunk or hungover half the time. He and his brother were going to make a proposal that they take over the web duties for the company. I could do it essentially in-house. And I just remember that day feeling so jealous. I was like, of course they're going to give it to him to do it in-house, but he's going to learn this cutting-edge stuff. He's going to program in HTML. Oh, my God, 4 letters. Not XLS like Excel. HTML, 4 letters. He's going to do 4 letters. And they got their suits on. They went upstairs, and they came down. And I don't know, I worked in this closet. Somebody came down the closet and just said, "Brother, have I got a story for you?" And he walks away, and I'm like, "Well, what happened? And you see my coworker come down in his suit. "I don't understand it. I thought this was going to work." And so I asked the guy, how did it go? "Well, they didn't give us the job." And I'm like, "Well, did you explain that you're going to include this in your duties and you would learn?" "Well, I was going to include this in my duties. We're going to charge him $5,000 per change." I said, "And they let you keep your job? I would have fired you on the spot. You're an employee of this company is going to charge the company $5,000 to make a change because the guys we use are charging $10,000. How about $0? I would have done it for $0, just for the experience,
just to learn the coding."
Oh my God! And you would get paid on your salary job to learn the cutting edge stuff, and this guy's going to do it for $5,000. And here, I don't know what happened to him. His name was Tom. I don't know how far he fell down the hole. I see his brother fairly frequently. He's the second shift sub-manager over at Culver's here in Lyons, making ice cream. That's Mr. $5,000 a change. That's where he fell into. So he went from website programming to would you like nuts and a cherry with that, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in a great generation because we've seen it go from virtually nothing.
Yes.
All that was available when we were born was these giant mainframe computers that maybe a big company might have one.
And we also lived in a world that didn't need computers.
And there was no World Wide Web. There was no
get this, kids, the TV shut off at midnight or 1 in the morning. You'd watch a TV channel and we now conclude our programming day, and you either get the Indian with the big test pattern or
get the
Star Spangled Banner
and the test pattern.
Yeah. Not now anymore, kids. Everything was told you. There actually was a shutdown. You get news after 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. I don't care if a nuclear bomb hit New York. You'd hear about it in the morning.
Now everything's going to the cloud.
Yeah.
So technically, these Chromebooks, they're basically just the most basic computer you can have with an internet
It's like
connection.
a router, right? It's just a direct router that you're sitting in front of.
Which kind of scares me a little bit because I like to have my stuff. I don't like to have it in the cloud because it can be hacked. That company decides to go out of business.
Right, or you lose your connection to the cloud and
you can't work.
You're disconnected. You're not there anymore.
The internet goes out, power goes out. You don't have anything.
Yeah.
But that's where it's going. We're going to get the implantable chips in our brains someday.
I'm signed up to get mine. I think it's the next booster shot. It's a booster plus a chip in your skull.
That comes with the COVID shot. You get the microchip in your brain. Why are you putting the needle in the back of my skull?
That's the horse paste, yeah.
But no, seriously, you should get your COVID shot.
Yes.
They're not going to put a microchip in.
And you know what? Get 2 of them. Have a spare, right?
Yeah. That's probably what they're going to be.
Yeah, I'm no doctor, but I played one on my block very successfully.
Well, I think we need to sign out of here.
We have extended. We've overreached here. I don't want to pull them off.
But there's so much more in this conversation.
Oh, there is. This
we can talk about cell phones.
Yes. Oh my God.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. See you next week.
Subscribe.
Be good. Yes. Pay your dues. Get your shot.